So it finally happened after 7 years.
7 years.
7 years, knocking on 8 in the business, in the old wrestling business. I had my first match over 7 years ago as Stardust. And in all that time, I have never bled, intentionally or otherwise. I've always wanted to do a match where I, as they say, got colour. But not like this. Not in a situation as stupid as this.
Was this in a big dramatic moment that you sort of built up to, that was like, you know, the bloodshed would be like, this is an appropriate climax to the arc you've been building?
Nah.
No,
the audience didn't even see it. I was told by the people who saw me staggering through the audience to get back to the changing room in the other building. I was told that it looked like I was doing some really good selling. But the blood did not really flow in an obvious way, especially because I was holding my face. Only I could get busted open doing a promo. Only I could get my first bit of blood. And I guess this is a case of someone who, you know, promos are my biggest strength. This is a case of live by the sword, get your face smashed in by the sword. Or in this case, a microphone. So it's a Royal Rumble style match, a Rumble match. 30 wrestlers. Match starts with 2 of them. Every 2 minutes, a new one's added. You're eliminated from the match if you are thrown over the top rope. One of my favourite types of matches to watch. One of my least favourite to be in, because it's a clusterfuck. But I made it so easy on myself. Because I knew all I really needed to do was go in there and cut a promo. I've done this kind of spot before. Go in. If anyone's standing up, knock them the fuck down. Most people were down. I grab the microphone. I do my spiel. The usual stuff. If you've watched my live streams and I've gotten a rage, you'd have heard it. The usual sort of wordplay. Long-winded ring announcement, that kind of thing. Pangalactic, Princess, Pansexual, Pandemonium, etc. Added a new one. The Promosexual is a new nickname I've added to my many titles. Finish the promo. Oh dear, got carried away, bit near the ropes. Helen Charlotte Campbell, who incidentally I'm wrestling this coming Sunday in Huddersfield for Tidal, comes up behind me as I do my big finish of the promo. You know, I am Commander Stephanie Sterling. She grabs my foot before I've even finished Sterling, starts hoisting me over the rope while I still have the mic, so I'm screaming into it things like stop eliminating me and stuff like that. Big laugh. Everyone loves it. The plan then is to be eliminated and then say into the microphone as a great punchline the announcer's job of saying Stephanie Sterling has been eliminated. Again, great. And that's what the audience saw. What they didn't see was, as I went over the top rope, I hit the ring apron, which is a way I particularly go out to protect other parts of myself. I hit the ring apron. My arm hits it first and slingshots the microphone into my nose.
Oh.
And then I hit the floor. And when I hit the floor, the pain I am feeling is tremendous. And I say this as someone who is in pain constantly. It stood out from the crowd, so that is hurting the whole time. I get up, ring announcer takes the mic off me. I am already unsure of what's happening, so I stagger out through the venue front entrance by just getting past all the crowd. On the way to the changing room, I look at my white glove and see red on it, and I am bleeding from the nose. And I already had a migraine that day. It didn't do it any favours. The world had become very tunnely. I was worried I was concussed. I'm not, luckily, but that is how I bled in a match for the first time. Do a promo, she said. It would be an easy night, she said.
Wrestling is totally fake, no risk of injury, it's all pretend.
No risk of injury. It's
all just make-believe.
Yeah. Now, one thing I've noticed with not just my wrestling career, but my life in general, I am very unlucky when it comes to avoiding physical pain, obviously. Not just the chronic stuff, but just, I fell down the stairs a couple of weeks ago. I've had all manner of painful accidents. But that's tempered by my really good luck I have in somehow avoiding permanent or serious injury with any of the accidents. And I genuinely think this is miraculous considering how hard I got hit. Not only did I avoid concussion, my nose feels great today. Like, it wasn't broken. Somehow. And it honestly should have been. Because this was a heavy-duty microphone that smashed into my nose. But it looks like the bleeding was almost entirely superficial. So I have, for those of you worried, I know there are millions out there worried, I am still gorgeous. Absolutely no damage to the face. But yeah, that was very painful few days, especially as a glasses wearer. And I kept forgetting. So I'd scratch my nose or adjust my glasses and then be very quickly reminded. But yeah, all good. Ready to bring a, pile of steel folding chairs and a door to my match on Sunday. Because I got my no DQ at Tidal. Some people tempt fate. I like to think that I troll it. And that's the story of how I am going to be careful doing promos from now on, because that's the dangerous thing they never warn you about. Fucking hell. How's everyone else?
Yeah, getting by. Pretty relaxing week of being alive still. So yeah, can't complain.
Yeah. I'm doing similarly all right. I have been doing speedrunning stuff this week.
Lovely.
And watching the internet froth at the mouth for the definitely imminent Switch 2 reveal so that they can finally see all the things that got leaked but official. Ooh.
Oh, mate, can't wait.
The internet's been fucking spiraling and it's been a fascinating thing to watch.
Well, do you want to tell us about the speedrunning? Kick us off?
Yeah, I'll kick us off on speedrunning. So, as I said last week, I've been getting back after like a 3-year hiatus into doing my silly little game speedruns, and I can't do more Babysitting Mama speedrunning right now because I'm on a couple of weeks wait for a North American copy of Babysitting Mama to show up, because there are loading time and minigame speed differences between regional versions. So I went back to my classic, my first speedrunning game, the one that got me really into it. I've come back to Cooking Mama Cookstar. This was the Cooking Mama game that was on the Switch, and then it got taken off sale, and then it was on PlayStation, then it got taken off sale, and it turned out that the company who made it didn't have the rights to the Cooking Mama name. So, at this point, you can buy a legally distinct, almost the same game called Yum Yum Cookstar. This whole one. But after 3 years of not speedrunning this game, I've come back, and people got serious about it while I was gone. And this is good. I am excited about this. People have given me times that I'm going to have to actually kind of work hard to beat. So I've come back, and I'm currently trying to beat the 5 vegetarian recipes any percent speedrun for the game, which the current record is 9 minutes, 15 seconds. And I am so close to taking that record back, but it's going to require a basically perfect run from me. I will tell you how close I am to taking this record back. I did one 3-4 hour Twitch stream of trying to retake this record. I achieved a 9:15.45, 0.45 of a second away from getting under the 9:15 and taking that record back. Close enough, because this speedrun category runs in whole seconds. I could have tied for first place, but no, I'm not submitting my time until I take first back. But it's been fun coming back to it in that having someone who has set a very solid time has forced me to actually think about getting good. I like where the speedrun I'm trying to beat currently is, in that usually when I do speedrunning, the default way that my speedrun timer program tracks how much progress I'm making in improving my times is whatever the best run I ever did in terms of final finish time, whatever that best run was, it'll show me the recipe 1, recipe 2, recipe 3 times that I had for that run. And, that's a good barometer. But the one I've been working off instead is sum of best segments, which is, hey, timing program, show me the best time I ever got for the first recipe out of 5. Then the best time I ever got for the second recipe. So I am competing against, like, the theoretical best I've ever done if you stitched my best attempts together. And that's been useful because it has given me a sense of, like, theoretically what is the best time I'm capable of hitting if I get a really good run and I don't fuck anything up. And that is currently down to 9 minutes and 9 seconds. So over 5 recipes, I have about 6 seconds of fuck-up room. And in practice, that basically means there's a handful of mistakes that I can't afford to make. That, like, if I make one of these mistakes in a run, there is a bespoke animation played, and that's going to take too long, and I'm probably not in the running for first place. But if I can avoid that little handful of notable mistakes, I am very capable of taking that first place slot, potentially by several seconds. And that's been really nice to realise, because the run's only like 10 minutes long. And it's basically, hey, over the course of 10 minutes, I can't grate the cheese too fast so it goes flinging off the screen and I have to wait for it to respawn. When it comes to cracking the eggs, I can't accidentally splat one of the eggs and have to wipe it off the screen. When it comes to rolling ingredients in breadcrumbs, I can't do the rolling too fast. There's a pounding mochi with a hammer that I can't do too fast, or I hit someone's hand with a hammer. As long as I can do a 10-minute run where I don't fuck up any of those things, I only have to not fuck up the little handful of things in 10 minutes, I've got like 6 seconds where, like, little mistakes will be okay. And I've been really enjoying trying to chase taking back this high score. It's been really satisfying. And yeah, I'm back to playing my Cooking Mama game and having a lot of fun with memorizing my route and trying to optimize down every single second of this really stupid motion-controlled, touchpad-controlled cooking game. So now, when I retake this record, hopefully, like, I'm hoping probably by the time this episode goes up, I'm hoping to have retaken that record. It's not just going to be I'm first place because no one else bothered. It's like, no, I had to fight for first place again. And I forgot how addictive I find that. So I'm having a really damn good time having good high score times to chase after.
Very cool.
Yeah. What about you both? What have you been playing this week?
I have been playing roguelike platformers this week. The first one I'm going to talk about is Spirit's Abyss. It's from Casis, I think it is. I think is how it's said. I can't say for sure. They're the Bone Razor Minions developer. And I've been working back through their back catalog to find the other gems that I missed along the way. And Spirit's Abyss is their version of Spelunky, basically. It's all of their aesthetic and sense of humor in a Spelunky-like, which is, it's pretty good so far. The thing about this guy's games is that there's so much that has to be unlocked to be playable. Like, you have to clear runs or meet conditions to get access to a lot of the character types, and they set you up right at the beginning with 2 character types that are very distinct that will make you interested in there being more, but it seems like there's a fairly long road to getting more of them. The 2 you start with are a alchemist, which fires a gun and has a grenade launcher for their bombs, so they can be targeted and they explode on contact, and it is extremely fucking useful. And the other character has a sword and drops their bombs, like you would expect in a Spelunky game. But the idea is, similar to Spelunky, you start at the top of the level and you have to make your way out through the bottom. The way it is framed is your society's culture that you were raised in throws a child into this pit on every blood moon, hoping that it returns back rich. It's pretty. It's got a little bit of a Binding of Isaac kind of sensibility to that, and that's fun. But all the walls are destructible, and so you're using the bombs to get access to treasures. It's very liberal with how frequently it gives you more bombs. It wants you to use them. There's lots of weird, freaky enemies, and it's a decently challenging platformer. But I haven't unlocked enough of it to be, like, super excited about it. I'm still playing it. But then I wound up playing a different roguelike platformer that I'll talk about later, and that just, like, completely consumed my energies. That said, it is on the level of Bone Razor Minions in terms of doing the thing that it is trying to emulate well. It is a very precise, very cleanly executed platformer that I really enjoy. And we'll get back to and hopefully unlock all sorts of cool shit and be excited about, like, in future weeks. But it's just too much to unlock at the start, and I got distracted, so that's that. It is good, though. I do like it. Spirits Abyss. Steph, what about you?
The big one I've been playing it for a month, actually. They were quite confident about this one, I guess. Not least for the fact that they sent it to me. Let alone a month after I'd already slagged it. I'd slagged the demo. But it is, of course, Dynasty Warriors Origins, which, yeah, I've put a lot of time into. Embargo dropped. Reviews went up Monday. I posted mine. I've barely checked out the response to it because why would I anymore? So, although so far most people that I've seen have not been too put out by it. I did have one person tell me in a rather transphobic way to off myself, but mate, you're going to bat for Dynasty Warriors. I mean, and on his own as well, which is extra sad. Wasn't part of a dog pile. I like to imagine he was looking behind him after that, just going, right, guys. So it is the best disappointment I've ever played. It is something you will love if you've ever thought to yourself, I'd like Dynasty Warriors more if it was depressing. If you didn't like the idea of it having characters and instead would rather the entire cast be expository devices with names who are in love with a player character who doesn't speak, doesn't have a personality, is treated as a stand-in for the player but has no customizable elements outside of a name that nobody uses because they've come up with a nickname for you and use that instead. And we'll use your name, but they do that thing of your name will be in the text subtitles.
Oh, but not in the voice line, yeah.
Yeah, which it's always sort of off-putting. But with all of that, it's got pretty damn good gameplay.
Mm.
If gameplay that has some significant flaws. So, I guess to crack on with the good stuff. The battles are big. They are very big. This is what I think, in terms of scale, I think this is what Dynasty Warriors always envisioned for itself. This is hundreds of bodies on screen. And the camera constantly pulling back just to constantly let you know, look how big this is. Admire it. Take all that size in you. Which I do, gratefully. I like, especially when you've been running around fulfilling objectives on the battlefield. During the big story battles, there will often be these moments where a huge force will be in the center or like just towards the back of the battlefield on one side, and you've gathered a huge force of allies, and they charge. And you're there on your horse charging with them, and then they clash with the enemy, and you jump off your horse, and you start doing shit. And there's loads of officers, and there's some officers trying to do big grand strategies, and in order to stop them, it's like kill 7 enemy officers in a time limit, or kill, 500 or more enemy soldiers, stuff like that. Great. Genuinely great. All of that. Fond of it. The gameplay itself, like the actual, like the button mashing stuff, largely fine. The way the weapons behave, each with their own different gimmicks, is interesting. For example, the sword is like very close to older Dynasty Warriors, where it's like different stringed combos. The staff, if you press the strong attack, if you just hold it, it will do it forever. until you let go and end with some flourish or take damage. And what you do before you hit the strong attack will change how it is. So if you do a normal attack, then hold triangle, you will run around spinning the staff like this, basically a little mincer. And you will do that forever, and it is quite funny. If you are blocking and then do it, you will launch enemies up in the air, and then you will do an air combo forever if you hold it. So that's cool. The movesets are expanded, and then every weapon has their own sort of battle arts, which are basically cooldown skills, and they're fine. Some of those are pretty cool. The main issue with that moment-to-moment combat is how it is dominated by what is a good system, but a system that is intrusive. They really want to push parrying in this game. They got bit by the Sekiro bug, and I know that they did that. Is it Wolong? Basically, Tecmo Koei brought out their own sort of Souls-like, Neo-like kind of thing that was set in Three Kingdoms China like this. So the game is heavy on parrying. It's very communicative. For a game that is full of stuff happening, it is surprising and impressive how well they communicate when an enemy is about to attack. You will know, even if they're off screen or behind a whole bunch of other soldiers, you will know. Block in time if it's a regular blockable attack, and it will repel them, and then you'll be able to hit them with stuff. If they are preparing to attack, they've got infinite poise, basically, and will no-sell everything to hit it. So if they start attacking, your two options are dodge or parry. Or block. If you block too soon, you will block it. But those are your two commands, basically. Hit the block button, hit the dodge button. Trying to do anything else outside of, like, your ultimate Musou attack will get you hit. And the problem with this is every enemy officer has it, whether they're a unique officer with their own character model, a lower tier officer with a name, or a generic officer that's just called, like, Brave Enemy General or something. All of them do this. All of them are fought the same way. If you try and have fun doing something else in their vicinity, they will not have it. They are jealous. I've tried at times to, like, try out a weapon or try and, like, complete a challenge of, like, you know, kill however many soldiers with this kind of thing. And then I will get hit with a knockdown attack that sends me flying from an enemy officer who will not let me do anything else. When they are around, the game becomes a parry game, and that is it. And it happens to the point where it trivializes almost everything else. It reminds me a bit of sort of the one big complaint I have with Hyrule Warriors, in that any strong officer-type enemies, you had to wait for them to attack and expose their guard meter, and it made most of your moveset kind of useless, because why would you do that when button mashing after they expose their guard is the point of it? And here it's like a little better, because you can do all of your moves after you've parried them or after they've just finished attacking. You'll have a small window. But the idea is to keep parrying and keep hitting them whenever you can to whittle down their fortitude so that they're staggered, so you can do a big, you know, damaging attack or a finisher, one of the two, depending on how weak they are at that point. So even though it's actually a good system, I thought I'd hate it, but it actually is quite satisfying. They've done really well with the audio-visual, they've done really well with the telegraphing, especially if you are mashing into enemy mooks and you're aware of an enemy, smashing into a bunch of stuff and then parrying an attack from behind is very cool. It is just a shame that, yeah, it dominates to the point where some of the weapons will never reach their full potential. They're too fancy. There are wheel weapons. They're Sun Shangjiang's weaponry, usually. These two hoops, ring blades that you throw. The idea is you throw the ring blades and they will create other ring blades that will fly out and then boomerang back to you. What you want to do is hit the attack button when the rings return to do an even stronger attack, which again, like the staff, different things you're doing beforehand make different attacks. Yeah, try doing that with enemies that constantly force you to break off everything you're doing to parry them, and will never give you the window you need. They will never give you the window you need to do anything that requires timing or charging or waiting. You don't have it. They don't give you the time. So the game's forced intruding system is counterintuitive to many of the weapons, really. At least in terms of, there's always something cool they can do that the officers will get in the way of. With the exception of maybe the lance weapon, where you hold the strong attack to take damage and then return the damage. That allows you to no-sell their no-selling. But that's it. So there are weapons, quite a few of them, that require charge times. Holding the button down and then unleashing the attack. And it's not impossible to do. It's more trouble than it's worth. Why bother? Because the game's made it very clear it wants to be played one single way, and will punish you if you try not to do it that way. However, this game is many howevers followed by howevers, trading between positive and negative. As I said, it is satisfying. You've just got to get used to the idea that you will never be allowed to do anything else for as long as an officer's around. Outside of that, the sheer lack of personality kills it for me. I was wavering on a way higher score on this based on the gameplay, but I can't look past the fact that even when this game's at its best, I thought to myself, I wish I was playing this Dynasty Warriors game as a Dynasty Warrior. I wish I had something unique to do and to feel like I'm... Here's the worst part of all of this. There are 9 main series characters you can very temporarily play as on very select stages. There are very specific storyline stages where if you can select a companion bodyguard from one of these 9 characters, one of 2 depending on which kingdom you're going with, hold down a button, you can take them over, or that, they tag in for a small amount of time, a very small amount of time. Every single weapon you have as the player is one of theirs. So they're not other characters, they're reskins. Any other game from any other developer in any other series would make special characters feel special. Not Omega Force, Dynasty Warriors, and this game. No. So if you've got the staff equipped and you tag in Zhou Yu, you've just gotten a different hairstyle, basically. It really hammers home. Especially because the enemies have access to more weapons than you do. Even though you see them have the same weapons copy-pasted over and over, so it gets boring seeing them. But they've got the big ball on the end of the stick. You don't get that. And looking at it, it looks like it's got the exact same moveset it had in Dynasty Warriors 9. So the only reason you don't have it is they didn't make a moveset for it that you can use and works with this game's mechanics. Which, try and hide it, mate. Try and hide what you've done. And I don't mean the way you usually hide it, which is to introduce a bunch of, ancillary systems and tell us that's the trade-off, which is what they did here. As soon as I saw that you had one protagonist in this game, I knew where this was going, and it went exactly where it went. Corner cutting, limited variety, the diversity completely gutted. I didn't expect it to be as bad as it is in terms of personalities gone. I've spoken to Zhang He, my favourite character. That's not my favourite character. He's as boring and bland as everyone else, has none of his... Anyone with a strong personality trait, that was taken out. And all they are exposition devices. Well, no, they're exposition devices, and they're here to tell you how great Omega Force's original character Do Not Steal is. It is like an OC insert fanfic. Especially because these are historical events with characters tied to them. But the new main character, who even looks like Mila Jovovich is his way into every scenario and is actually the reason everyone does anything. And then you get these bonding events with these characters where they tell you how great you are. I used a screenshot in the review which says it all, of one of the characters saying, well, I never expected to bump into my savior here. That's pretty much what the character is. He is ancient Chinese Jesus. Like, just the savior of all, the greatest, most perfectest. The character everybody loves, even though he has no personality traits, but I suppose that doesn't matter in a game where there are no personality traits. It's embarrassing how desperate this game is to make you fall in love with the main character. And it wouldn't be so bad if there was a character creator. I mean, why else would you have a voiceless protagonist who has no ties to the series in a meaningful way throughout the whole campaign and doesn't do anything but is fawned over? That's supposed to be a self-insert power fantasy right there. I don't mind fawning if the game's point is to say you are awesome. No, the game's point is to say this guy, who we've done nothing to make stand out, is awesome. Not even any customization. He gets a drab robe for half the game, trades it for a different drab robe later, and that's it. And it's so transparent that he is an excuse. Because I said in the thing as well, I said in the review, he's a mouse cursor with extra steps. He's just the tool with which you interact with the game. And it's a real disappointment. It's a real disappointment.
That's a shame.
Oh yeah. I'm so sold on the foundations of this game. There's the groundwork for a great Dynasty Warriors game. This is not a Dynasty Warriors game. It's none I recognize.
Right, well, because that's the thing with this sort of genre, is that because it is everything all the time, it runs a risk already of feeling very samey, without having something to make it stand out and give it personality and direct that energy on a focus. You might as well be just pressing a button over and over again.
Yeah. Well, here's where, to that very point, the game's lack of personality makes things worse again. Because there are 9 weapons you can equip. The game drip feeds them. Some of them are hours between each other. Paced well, which you could argue this is. Paced relatively well, the drip feed of weapons can make sure something new happens after a lot of the same thing. The problem is, the gameplay suffers from the same blandification, this weird attempt at realism that this series seems to have had in the past, 10 plus years as part of its identity crisis. The producers are obsessed with realism. So, I want to say, a third of the weapons are polearms. They are different. They have different gimmicks, but they're polearms. They ultimately serve the same role, even with different gimmicks, because there are no claws. There are no whips. There are no interesting weapons. There are swords. There are polearms. I'd say the 2 most exotic are the fists, which you can, go into different stances to do different attacks from, and those wheels I mentioned. Both of those are probably harmed the most by the insistence of the parry system, so they come up against a brick wall. 3 polearms, they went with the most normal, and I guess in their mind, the most realistic weapons they could think of. Which, hey, if you want that, they got it. I think after years of this shit, they have finally hit on a game that they could say is realistic. To a point. As realistic as these games can get. They made it as depressing as real life. That's for sure. It is brown. It is drab. It is full of characters who wear fairly conservative costumes and have boring discussions about their political machinations of no consequence. They're either sending you love letters, because you get letters, they're sending you love letters, which really sound like love letters. It really sounds like they want some hot yaoi action. Or political discussions. But not meaningful political discussions. It's just positions. Who's governor where? All of this shit. Most character motivations are loyalty to my lord. They bang on and on about loyalty to my lord. Yeah, it's sad. And that's Dynasty Warriors Origins. There's a very good game in there that I just can't enjoy as much as it should be enjoyed because they made it as po-faced as possible, took out a lot of the variety, and replaced the stuff they took out with not a lot. So yeah, if you just care about the big battlefields, which by the way, that won't be most of your time. If you want to stay leveled up and stuff, there are lots of little skirmishes that are significantly smaller and less interesting, and you can't replay the big story battles. So a lot of it is building your way up to them. And the battles are cool. They are great. They have little tactical elements that are cute. And if that's all you focus on, you can say this game is great. I view it more as one sum of a whole part, or rather one part of a whole sum. And the whole sum to me is like I say, the best disappointment I ever played. And that's that.
Yeah. Well, in terms of stuff I've been up to this week, most of what I've been playing is stuff for work that I can't talk about yet, but I have been... I think I talked about the fact I was getting started on this last week. I've been setting up with a group of people on Discord a fantasy critic league. I think I talked about this last week. Essentially like your sort of American fantasy sports league, but for predicting video game scores for the coming year.
Oh.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a fucking great idea. As someone that doesn't do scored reviews, so my reviews aren't going to impact anything anyway, but I got a bunch of people from Discord, and we came together, there's 10 of us, and the initial draft was basically we snake back and forth picking 5 games each that we think throughout the year are going to get good review scores, and one counter pick that's a game you think's either going to underperform review score-wise, or you think isn't going to come out at all, and is going to get delayed out of the year. And we did our drafting, we did that over the weekend, and, it's easy when you're, picking your first, second, third picks, but when you start getting to, picks 4 and 5, it's oh, we're 40 games into the draft at this point. I'm having to sort of scrape around for things that might review well when 40 of the most solid picks are gone. And at some point throughout the rest of the year, each of us still has to draft another 4 games with basically bidding with fantasy bucks. It's been really fun already as a process. A couple of the things that I put in place to try and encourage people to, not just make the safe, obvious picks is a couple of your slots throughout the year have to be drafted as new game franchises. So, not sequels, not things in existing franchises. And it's been fun watching people try and find what new stuff without a proven track record to bet on. It's been really interesting already. If for no other purpose than it's been really nice watching. We've already had our first game of the year that someone put on their draft that has had its reviews come out. I think it was someone put their bid on Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which is a HD port of a Nintendo game that reviewed very well 15 years ago. Didn't review nearly so well today because it's aged and it's being poorly reviewed compared to the things that it inspired that came after it in the 15 years since. It's really interesting watching reviews come in and being kind of emotionally invested in oh, is that going to do well? Is that going to do badly? What's that doing for our rankings? One of the ones that's been really fun this week to watch is someone put their bid in on Hyper Light Breaker, which is from the Hyper Light Drifter people, but to my understanding is a early access multiplayer thing. And that's now gone into early access, but they're it's going to be an early access for around 12 months. And that person's now playing the game throughout this year of, oh god, is it going to go into 1.0 this year or not? Because about a year could be end of this year and still get points in the draft. It could be early January next year and get no points in the draft. And trying to work out whether they're going to use their one opportunity to drop something off the draft to get rid of that or not. It's been really fun having an excuse to just be invested in rooting for my little list of games. I'm quite proud of a couple of my finds that I got in the draft of things that I'm willing to take a punt on might do well this year. In terms of new game franchises, I've put my two bids in for those already. One of them's called Wonderstop. It is a farming game / running a tea shop simulator written by Davey Redden from the Stanley Parable. And I'm I am convinced that game's going to be more than it seems, and I'm willing to take a punt on Davey Redden's writing to make it like one of those things that does well with critics. The other one I picked was a game called Dispatch, which is a Telltale adventure game style game where you work in like a 999 emergency services call center in a world that has superheroes. So you're trying to assign, like, oh god, Godzilla's attacking the city, right? Who do we have available? Who can we send out to go deal with this problem? It seems to be written with, like, a sort of comedy sensibility to it, and it has a lot of high-profile voice actors attached to it. It seems pretty fun. It's got a good, unique selling point to it. I'm like, yeah, I'll root for this throughout the year. I'm gonna root for this to be my little indie sleeper hit that does well. So yeah, I'm already very invested in having my little... We've got like 50 games throughout the year. That list is going to nearly double by the time the year is done, of games that everyone is watching out for going, am I rooting for or against this game doing well?
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Like
We spent like most of the weekend like intermittently drafting. And this is the first week that it's actually been running since the draft was completed. I didn't expect us to be this invested in our little fantasy stock league. I'm definitely invested in doing this again in future years. It's been a lot of fun already. So yeah, what about you, Comrade? You been playing anything else?
I have. So as I said, it's been a roguelike week, roguelike platformers, and I got hooked into another one this week. It was a gift sent by a listener of the podcast, and it's called Scarlet Maiden. It is a beautifully animated platformer where you are a woman who is part of a line of defenders going back to some incident hundreds of years earlier, come to investigate portals that have reopened that were, thought to be closed, and rescue the people of this keep that wandered in there and got caught while trying to resolve the mystery of whatever lies within. And it's pretty much your standard fare where this stuff is concerned. There's a bunch of different weapon types that you can acquire. You also can have one magic spell, and those have elemental types with different functions and mana costs. And then you have a couple of equipment slots for a trinket and a ring. And as you travel through the levels looking for the exit, you find shrines that can confer bonuses onto you or give you additional equipment that you could swap out. As you kill enemies and destroy stuff in the environment and sell off the stuff you don't want, you accumulate a currency called Sin, which you then spend back at the base after your run is completed on upgrades to your character and upgrades to the abilities of the people that you've rescued to provide you with better starting equipment. It's all very, very bog standard. The real thing that distinguishes it is all of the fucking. So much fucking. Loads and loads and loads of fucking. The character that you get your experience upgrades from, that process is done by you getting a good firm spanking.
Wow.
All of the subquests in the game are delivered by one character who wants you to find 10 items that are enemy drops and bring them back to her so that she can get her dungeon up and running again. And all of the various equipment and delights that those confer. And so, of course, all of those things fuck you as well. Every enemy type in the game can be fucked. There is a mechanic that functions like a finishing move for enemies called Lust. If you can get them into a state of lust, which is sort of random and happens infrequently in general play, but there is a spell that you can get that puts a 100% chance of lust on an enemy once they're defeated. And they go into a prone state, and you get to do effectively a finishing move, which is a timing button press mini game where you have to hit 3 targets in increasing speed, and you're fucking them, or they're fucking you. And it is gorgeously animated. So much attention is paid to the fucking animations. There is a lot of reused animation, a lot of, swapped pixels to, because a lot of these enemy types are the same over the course. There's really only like 5 or 6 different enemy types, and then those get recycled a little bit as you get deeper in. But that's okay, because like the bosses in this are all very entertaining finishing sequences, and that switches it up a bit. The bosses use a rhythm game directional arrow thing to play while their fucking's going on, and that is rewarded with more bonuses from them the better you perform in that game, which is nice. The advantage to doing the fucking of regular enemies is that in the lust state, when you perform the finishing move, you can get up to 4 times the amount of sin from them, which then you can spend to get the upgrades back home. And I've now very quickly reached a point, once I hit upon the strategy of making it so you fuck everything in a run as best you can, I've wound up with so much resource that I have nothing to spend it on, which is cool, because now it lets me sort of refocus on my goal of finishing the game. And sort of later in the game now, I've gotten the character that gives you access to later stages in the run earlier, which is really good in a game like this one, where apart from the cash gain that you would earn playing through earlier levels, there's really not much benefit to going back. You're going in with starting equipment that is 12 levels higher than anything that you would get at the start. And so while it's not difficult to breeze through those levels, they aren't really necessary. They become vestigial. And so this is one of the few roguelike games that I've played in that has a warp that I actually would want to make use of the warp, because there really is no disadvantage to doing so. This is a very, very fun, porny game if you like a good action platformer and are entertained by a porny game. And Laura, you might be interested to know that the developer of this game, which is Otterside Games, they have one other title that they released last year on Steam. It's called Spirit Valley. I think this had crossed my gaze at some point previously. It is a Pokemon-like.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at it now. That's some busty titty Pokemon.
Oh, and there's some really just incredibly creative designs here. Like, the way you get health potions, the shrines that you get health potions and mana potions from are fantastic. The health potion shrine is quite clearly a guy in a cardboard box. A red cardboard box, and his dick is sticking out the front erect, and you fuck it, and you get your health potion that way, and then he's hanging down limp in all ways, dripping. Hilarious. Fantastic. And then the mana potion guy, the health potion guy is single use. The mana potion guy is multi-use, and it's an orc in a service station uniform at a gas pump holding a pump, and you fuck the pump and it refills your mana. It's so great. It has 3 uses, and it's almost worth using it every time to see the animation. That's another great thing about the design of this. They are very, very thoughtful about every time you fuck something new, it adds the animation to the gallery for you to go back and watch it. Because it can be hard, especially with the bosses, to see the animation while you're focusing on doing the gameplay stuff. And they really should be enjoyed. So you can, at any time, go into the gallery and watch the animation of anything you've fucked. It's a very well-made package. And I'm very impressed, actually. And I kind of look forward to other things Otterside makes, because they have a playful sensibility it's crude, but it doesn't feel gross. It's just playful and naughty and a lot of fun. So, yeah, I would check out Scarlet Maiden if you're looking for a platformer that is a little bit lewd. This is a very bit lewd.
Yeah. It sounds interesting. It's on my radar.
Furiously making a note.
What about you, Steph? You played anything else this week?
Not really anything new to talk of. The only other thing, of course, has been Sengoku Basura Samurai Heroes again. Monday, of course, was a big essay/retrospective on specifically that game, because I can speak the most about it, but also the series. Amazing feedback to that one. Thank you, folks who watched and enjoyed it. I will be doing a lot more of that kind of thing this year. It's something I've wanted to move more into, and I'm really glad people have liked it. So I've got another like video like that coming, and I don't know if there's anything more I can add at this point to how great that game is. If you're not sold already, and several people have told me they've bought it since the video.
Yay!
Yeah, if you're not sold by now, you're never going to be. I desperately want a new one. Going back to that, because this whole, past month that I've been talking about Sengoku Basura, the one thing I haven't been able to say yet is I've been playing Dynasty Warriors Origins alongside it. And the difference is night and day. You got these boring guys talking about loyalty to my lord over and over again, and then you've got Troy Baker screaming Ieyasu over and over, but also in a funny way because it's different variations of Ieyasu, while other characters step back and are like, dude, chill the fuck out. But then those characters aren't chill, because the one who's most telling the guy to chill out also wants everyone to suffer in the world, including himself. That's his whole driving motivation, is to just blanket the world in suffering. But all the characters I've mentioned, the girl being puppeteered by these black shadowy hands, the guy who fights with 6 fucking katanas at once, 3 in each hand as claws, just how extra this game is. We're over here talking about 9 weapons, 3 of which are pole arms. Then I go on over to this one, and every character is doing something fucking wild. It's not just that they're different, it's that everything they're doing is fucking wild. I can't remember if last week I'd unlocked the magic wheelchair.
If you did, I don't think you talked about it, but it was quite a thing to witness in your video this week.
Yeah, one of my favourite characters, Yoshitsugu. Historically, the character, because these are, all, again, based on real people. There's no evidence Tadakatsu Honda was a Gundam in real life, but he is in this.
Is there evidence to say he wasn't a Gundam?
Nothing written about Honda has said he wasn't a Gundam. So, open to interpretation, really, isn't it? Yeah, so Yoshitsugu, he's one of my favourite characters in the whole thing. He's the blanket, the darkness. Historically, he had leprosy, and it's communicated in this game with him being fully wrapped in bandages. He's riding, he sits cross-legged on this floating palanquin because he had one in the last battle he had. Historically, that's how he rode out, blind, unable to move on one of those. So he fights with one of those. And I unlocked he's got a special move that makes big magic wheels appear on it, and he rides it like a giant accessibility chariot from hell. And it breaks the gameplay. He just smashes through everything, and if you pin anyone up against a wall with it, you just press the smash button over and over. But the glorious thing about this game is it doesn't give a fuck. So long as it's fun and audacious, they'll throw it in. And I admire that so much. I admire a game that has so much respect for its audacity, it disrespects its gameplay. So long as it's still fun. And that's what Sengoku Basura is. It's unbelievable fun. So yeah, not really anything to add. I could just spend ages pointing at different weapons and attacks and have you seen this, but have you seen this? It's all fucking great. And bonkers. Yeah.
We got time for a couple of bits of news before we finish up.
Let's do it then.
Yeah, so Nintendo has had a week for news, and I'm gonna say not all of it great PR for them. Some of it a little anti-consumer. So you know how Nintendo has had a bit of a history recently of not crediting the original devs when they do remakes and remasters of games?
Yup.
Yeah, that's not going anywhere anytime soon. And specifically, it keeps seeming to harm Retro Studios staff. Back when Metroid Prime Remastered released on Switch last year, they took out all the people who made the original game and just put, "Thank you to the original creative team." And they've done the same again for Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. It just says something to the effect of, "Thank you very much to the original creative team," and does not list any of the names of any of the people who made the bloody game.
Cool.
Huh.
So that's kind of a shitty thing that, like, I know there's not a lot to say about it other than it's really bad industry practice, and can you please stop doing that,
Yeah,
Nintendo / everyone
honestly.
else. Also, on the note of Nintendo, that this is one they've not done a bad thing yet, but it really sounds like they're gearing up to, and I want to have a bit of a moan about it. So, last year Nintendo took down their online services for the Wii U and the 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't play online games on those or anything anymore. Like, Miiverse and stuff went down. But people went and made their own alternative you can connect to called the Pretendo Network.
Right.
And it is a free alternative to Nintendo servers that lets your Wii U and your 3DS think they're online. You can do multiplayer gaming online with other people. You can access Miiverse, all that sort of stuff.
Please tell me you're not about to tell me that they shut this shit down just as I'm about to go and, like, try to revive the Foverse.
So, they've not shut it down.
Thank Christ.
But I'll read you Nintendo's tweet as of last night. Request. We have confirmed the existence of unauthorized services that replace functions such as online play for the Wii U, which ended service on April 9th, 2024. Please refrain from using such services as they may pose unexpected security risks.
Oh, okay, so they're just trying to scare people from actually doing the thing rather than threatening the people who made the thing.
For now, that seems to be the case. But I see a tweet like this and I'm like, oh god, are they gonna...
Yeah, this is
Are
now on their radar.
are they gonna go after him and give him a shout? Because they're on their radar. They're going, hey, we're paying attention to you.
But in the past, they wouldn't have even put them on the radar. They'd have just gone and shut them down, I think. Right?
Possibly.
I don't know. It's... My thought is it, like... Because they're not selling anything, maybe they don't yet think that they can legally strong-arm them, particularly considering it's being run by people outside of Japan. But is this a, hey, we sued some people last year and we're aware of you, be scared?
Yeah, like, because they wouldn't... Okay, so the way that the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, I'm pretty sure that's the one at play where this is concerned, would, prevent circumventing security on the device, yada, yada. But these people aren't doing any of that. They're providing access to a service that someone else who might have done that would have done to access it, but they're not culpable in any way. So I'm not sure if Nintendo has the means to shut them down. But at the same time, if that were the case, it also seems dumb to point out that it exists, because the vast majority of people who will see a tweet from Nintendo have no fucking clue this has happened.
Right. This tweet, less than 24 hours old, 5.5 million views on Twitter. So I feel like this is a real Streisand effect tweet to do, unless you're planning to do something about it. And that's why I'm looking at this cautiously, being like, Nintendo, don't get involved. If you don't want people to use a service that you claim may pose unexpected security risks, you know what you could have done, Nintendo? Keep the fucking Wii U and 3DS servers up. It's apparently cheap enough to do that some chuckle fucks that aren't Nintendo were like, yeah, we'll just make our own. Clearly not that expensive to run. You could have just kept your own servers up.
Yeah.
But you didn't, so...
It kills me that they dropped any kind of Miiverse concept. going forward. The fact the Switch doesn't have something similar. The fact that, it's all inaccessible now officially. It really sucks. I still think the Miiverse was an excellent idea.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with it.
Nope.
It was moderated well enough. People weren't all that interested in fucking around in there. Some of them were actively hostile to fucking around in there, as the spearhead of the Defoeverse can tell you. I can only assume some publishers didn't like the fact that you could instantly access forums where people were giving you their opinions on the game.
Mm.
But my God, the Wii U had one of those Cabela Hunts games, right?
Yeah.
And the logo, the cover of it was a bear. And someone on the Miiverse for Cabela's drew a speech bubble in the drawing area pointing to the bear. And it said, "I am Cabela, freely hunt my people." And we won't get comedy like that again. And there was some really funny stuff. Really funny stuff. I still remember playing the first Splatoon, and that integrated it, where speech bubbles would come out of characters in the hub world. And I still remember the one that just said, "My parents are getting a divorce."
I am still a believer that, anything else the Switch 2 could have announced for it, nothing would excite me as much as Street Pass and Miiverse are coming back.
Yeah.
Bring them both back. They were both great fucking features gone too soon. Continuing on the track of Nintendo, you know how last week we talked about how peripheral manufacturer Genki was at CES going, "Hey, we may or may not have bought a Switch 2 on the black market with which to make peripherals. Come have a look at all our peripherals and our mock-ups of Switch 2. So, Nintendo... Well, we'll start with officially what Nintendo said, because after, 6 months of leaks, Nintendo finally said something about all the leaks. And their official statement was, "The images and videos, they are not official." So officially that's Nintendo's statement is, the shit that you saw from companies that aren't Nintendo isn't official. Yeah, fucking... No shit.
Now they're just trolling.
So this is where we move away from official statements from Nintendo and move to some reporting from a French journalist about allegedly what went down at CES after Genki's whole statement last week. So, allegedly, Nintendo lawyers turned up at CES to have a chat with Genki. And when that happened, the story goes that Genki's spokesperson said to Nintendo, "First of all, we're not under any kind of NDA with you, so tough luck. Secondly, they may have backed down from their claim to have bought a black market Switch 2. Going, no, our peripherals are entirely designed based on leaked images and mock-ups that other people posted on the internet. We definitely don't have a Switch 2 in our possession. No, sirree, you can't prove that we do."
Amazing.
Wow. I love it. I suspect that they will have some difficulty becoming an officially licensed partner in future, but
I think they knew they were throwing that out the fucking window.
Yeah, I think so.
At the time. So, yeah, honestly, it's been fucking bonkers to watch it all go down. I've been having a lot of fun keeping up with it all. We've got one other thing that's kind of related to this. From all accounts, we are, by the time this episode goes up, the Switch 2 might have already been revealed. You know how Xbox has been, throwing a lot of their games on other systems, and, that started last year. Apparently they're going all the fuck in on Switch 2 at launch. Reports that seem to be pretty credible are now saying Flight Simulator, Halo the Master Chief Collection, and Doom the Dark Ages are all planned for ports to Switch 2.
Wow.
That's some... the one that I keep sticking on is the Master Chief Collection. Portable Halo on a non-Xbox device is... That's gonna feel like a big fucking moment for, nothing is sacred to Xbox as a brand now, I guess. A couple of other stories quickly before we wrap up. You remember Lords of the Fallen? That was what, last year?
I believe so, yeah.
It was a good game. Me and Steph both enjoyed that quite a lot, that game. Yeah, its publisher's gone a little bit right-wing anti-woke shouty this week. Yeah. Their global marketing director went on a bit of a shout, talking about how their games would not embed social or political agendas due to the high risk it can present, and they're going to focus on excellent user experience with compelling thematics and characters, specifically for core and adjacent audiences.
Pussy.
A number of high-profile releases underperformed commercially during the last year due to social or political agendas.
Oh my god, wow. Full on nerdsy.
Yeah, he's doing the whole Dragon Age Veilguard didn't sell because it had gays in it shit.
Yeah.
Concord had a they them in it and it didn't sell good.
It's a poorly disguised go woke go broke. He's ringing, ringing those bells, blowing those dog whistles.
Yeah.
How pathetic.
I'll read one more from him just to so you know I've not taken him out of context. While some video games have recently taken the opportunity to embed social or political agendas within their experiences, it is clear that many players do not appreciate this, and as a result, we've seen a number of high-profile releases underperforming commercially. Our games will always be developed to maximize player enjoyment and commercial success, and as such, we will not be integrating any social or political agencies into this experiences going forward, having observed the high risk this can present.
Uh-huh.
As you say, it's go work, go broke that he's going for.
Now,
and it's gross.
it is a political statement to do what they're doing, obviously. To say, we're not going to have any representation that will offend
our games are
nerds.
only going to have able-bodied cis-straight white men is a political stance you have made for your game.
Yeah, and then the extra layer on top of that is the very obvious dog whistling. Like don't act like everyone's fucking stupid, mate. It's so obvious what you're doing. Okay, fine. If that's what they want to do, then they can go ahead and do it.
It's
Enjoy.
a shame. I like the last one.
Yeah. But it is what it is. They are very clearly saying they don't want a certain type of person round these parts. So
yeah,
and that is who you're appealing to. Some of these people are like, not only do they think everyone's stupid, they're deluding themselves. Like, you may be trying to convince yourself that it really is just that simple, that, this is just a tactical thing because of DEI and how that costs sales. Remember that the people against DEI are furious at things like pronouns in a character selector, are furious at things like a trans person being visible in a game for a few seconds, pride flags in the background in an open world game that you might never see. Be aware that you are explicitly siding with people who want anyone from a marginalized community dead and gone. They want them eradicated from public view. That is who you are siding with. And I hope you enjoy the company you keep, because it's not nice company. Have fun with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one last thing to end on a slightly lighter note. I don't know if either of you heard. PlayStation's Until Dawn is getting turned into a film.
Yeah.
You heard about this?
I heard about it from yourself.
Yeah, well, it's happening, and we know a little bit more about it now. And what we now know about it is that it isn't Until Dawn at all, other than in name.
Right. So we're bringing back the 2000s era of video game movies.
Yeah, I'm genuinely kind of fascinated. I wanted to talk about this.
Uh-huh.
So, it's a horror film, and the only thing that it, has in common with Until Dawn, the choice-based narrative game about a bunch of teens getting hunted by wendigos in the snowy mountains, it has in common that the people in it have to survive until dawn. They have to survive overnight that is still the case.
It reminds me of the old meme of, Ellie, we really are the last of us.
Now, there's something I think even funnier about this. I've saved the best for last here. So, the film's director, David F. Sandberg, really wants you to believe that this is taking mechanical inspiration from the game Until Dawn.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna give you the explanation of the mechanic in Until Dawn and how it appears in the film, so you can hear how much of a stretch it is. In the game Until Dawn, you had branching choice-based narrative stuff, where you could make choices and characters might live or die based on your choices, and you had to live with the consequences of that, and that would sort of change your story. He's bringing that mechanic to the linear movie by way of, actually, it's a movie where the characters will die repeatedly, and then time will rewind, and they will have to do events again and try and not die.
I'm not the only one who's screaming internally, that's just Groundhog Day, am I? That's just Groundhog Day.
Or one of the was it a Tom Cruise movie that did that?
Oh,
sci-fi.
Yeah. So there was that Netflix show a few years about 5 years back now. It had what's her face in it, Natasha.
The thing I'm struggling to understand is they're going, oh, it's Until Dawn. They've got to survive until dawn. But the core mechanic is that there's this sand timer, and every X amount of time it'll rewind and everyone will be alive again. So, is it that they have to survive till dawn, or they just have to endure dying over and over until dawn?
Do you have to be alive until it switches over from 5:59?
Do you only have to survive the final loop? Can you die in all the other ones?
Or the last second? Or is there a tally? How many scenarios do you escape versus how many do you lose? What the fuck?
From what I can tell, it sounds really convoluted. Every time that the timer sets back, everyone's alive again, but the place they're in is different, and it's a different scenario they have to survive now.
Right.
But time's rewinding in that they're all coming back to life, but time is moving forward because they're getting closer to dawn. Yeah. And they're calling it PlayStation's Until Dawn, despite it being nothing to do with the game Until Dawn.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure, why not?
You could at least tie it to the game by having Peter Stormare play the same character, because he's in it and he's not.
Peter Stormare is in it, but he's not playing the same character or in the same story.
That same character would absolutely work.
Peter Stormare is the only thing they are carrying over, is Peter Stormare is in it.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Right? I'm fucking baffled by it, and I'm genuinely kind of fascinated. I want to see it now.
Yeah.
It sounds like a mess.
This is one of the problems with adapting, games that are themselves trying to be movies, and have a lot of, movie, they just have a lot of movie. That's what Until Dawn has. It's an interactive movie, which, it's a good one. I've enjoyed it, but this is one of those perfect examples of when you adapt a video game to a movie, you take something away. If you adapt a book, you're at least adding a visual element. If you adapt a game, you take away the interactivity.
Oh, but you're also, when you're adapting a book into a film, you're also taking away a lot of context and description, and some of that will be, accounted for in the visual, certainly, but you have to take so much, because anything internalized in a book cannot easily be conveyed to film.
Oh, I get that. But at least you're adding
I just wanted
something.
To extend your metaphor, to show that it is not merely... There is subtraction required in any adaptation.
Of course. Books especially have to be condensed. It's why you get, composite characters and things that take several characters' traits into one, because they've cut the huge cast down, stuff like that. Absolutely. But you also do add actors and sound. And it's an interesting take on a thing, because you get to see those elements. Whereas the driving force of a game is its interactivity. And when you have Until Dawn, which is a movie differentiated only by interactivity, how do you do a movie like that? You either retell the story while missing its central element, so it's just a playthrough then, or you do whatever this is. You do Groundhog Day, but it's gonna be worse than great. We won't have Bill Murray in it.
There is something kind of fascinating about that ping-ponging adaptation. You know, like Street Fighter, the movie, the game, that kind of stuff, and how it deteriorates a little bit with every pass. And it kind of reminds me of what they're proposing to do with large language models and start to train them on data produced by large language models. And we're going to just watch it become trash. It's the same premise. You can't carry it all across, and something gets lost in translation every time.
Yep. I look forward to playing Until Dawn, the movie, the game. And seeing this story, but with some interactivity. So yeah, there we go. We done it.
Yep, we have. Laura.
Me.
Sometimes, and I know you do it. Sometimes you work Until Dawn.
Oh,
because you work
on
so
occasion.
Hard. And sometimes.
Mayhaps occasionally, yeah.
Those results are on the internet or in shops. And could you tell people all about those, please?
Yeah, you can find all the stuff I'm doing at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere. If you want to watch the speedrunning live streams I've been doing, you can find those on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at roughly 10 p.m. UK, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Currently trying to retake some of my Cooking Mama Cookstar records. Other than that, recently I had a video up on YouTube about colorblind accessibility and the mistake that developers keep making by simulating colorblindness rather than actually fixing it. I've got a video going up about the BioWave Proteus controller now that I've had some proper time with that, going up this week. There's a new Control-Alt-Access episode that you can find on YouTube. Other than that, I will probably have some content up by, around the time you're listening to this about the Switch 2. That seems like it's probably going to be happening right around when you hear this. Just Laura K. Buzz, you'll find all the stuff I'm up to. What about you, Conrad? Where are you out on the internet?
Oh, you can find me at Conrad Zimmerman on Blue Sky, and you can hang out with me on Twitch at twitch.tv/thatconradzimmerman. I stream Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays. You can buy anti-capitalist propaganda and Jimquisition merchandise at mercenarycreative.com. And everything I do online gets supported through Patreon at patreon.com/fistshark. And you know who else has a Patreon? Stephanie Sterling.
That is correct. Patreon.com/Jimquisition, which supports this podcast and the video series and reviews on the Jimquisition.com. Speaking of which, if you go on that website, you will see a review for Dynasty Warriors Origins, and the latest episode this week was an incredibly well-received retrospective on Sengoku Basura. So do check that out. My next wrestling date is this weekend. I will be in Huddersfield on Sunday, the 19th of January. It is a no DQ match against Helen Charlotte Campbell. So one of my best opponents in a match that I am best at. So if you can get there, do check it out. That match is going to be incredible. And that's that. Thank you all so much for listening, supporting, etc. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.